Big secret from Kiss, worked on Paul Stanley's solo album, worked with Dee Snider, Lou Reed, Meatloaf, Michael Bolton, Diana Ross, and so many other artists in between. He has his own solo album, is a Grammy-winning producer, has co-writing credits on Gene Simmons' Vault Experience, and has a bunch of platinum and gold awards under his belt. Great to be talking to guitarist, record producer, and composer Bob Kulick. Thank you so much. Finally, we get to talk, Bob.
Hi there. Thanks for reading off only part of my credits. Gee,
I know, right?
So amazing. I'm like, who are they talking about? Is that me?
That is so you, and that's nothing. Like I apologize. I could have.
The one that you left out that I would mention is my association with Motorhead. My co-producer and I, Bruce Brie, were the only producers that worked with the band Motorhead between 2000 and 2004.
Wow.
We were the guys that did God Save the Queen and Whiplash that won the Grammy, and Jumpin' Jack Flash, and The Game that we co-wrote and produced, and I played on the theme for Triple H, and, a whole bunch of other stuff, including the We Are Motorhead record. So, to me, because of the respect that people have, as well they should, for Lemmy Kilmister, certainly one of the greatest rock stars that the world ever had, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, because I'm almost most proud of that. Of all of what you mentioned, not that Lou Reed or Alice Cooper or Paul Stanley or Kiss or anybody like that, should be degraded. But Lemmy, in and of and by himself, was the personification of rock and metal music.
And of course, Bob, you've done so much, though, really. And I apologize for leaving Motorhead out of that intro, but really, you have a lengthy resume.
I'm old.
You're not. You look great.
I look great. I'm an in-shape guy, and I'm still not losing my hair.
It's very shiny, by the way. I don't know how you do that.
Thank you. I found this Aztec mud mask that I've been using on my forehead, and actually, the properties is kind of draw out all the impurities. And when you look at yourself, it's like, wow, some of those lines can go away without doing anything like, surgery or Botox or something like that.
Maybe you should promote that.
Well, yeah, it's a little outside my expertise zone. Aztec powder that you mix with water or apple cider vinegar and has the property of pulling a splinter out of your finger.
No kidding.
Seriously. Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to look that up. We're getting off the phone, and I'm on Google.
All righty.
Now, Bob, someone once said that if there were to be a fifth Kiss member, it should be you. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think I could have been one of the members.
Absolutely.
If they needed an extra guitar player, as long as we could come to terms and have a contract, I'm sure it would work out fine. Again, my playing with the band is heard on record. Kiss Alive 2, Larger Than Life, All American Man. The statements that I made on those with my lead guitar playing, speaks to what they would have sounded like with me. So technically, people do know what Kiss sounds like with Bob Kulick as a fourth member, as a fifth member, as whatever member.
Right.
You add Paul Stanley's solo record to that, which was the most Kiss-like of all the records. Mm-hmm. And some of those solos are certainly some of the best solos I ever played in my life. Tonight You Belong to Me and Goodbye, and those songs really ring true. Even today, you listen to those, and those are totally kick-butt performances for sure. So, yeah, I guess I could be the fifth Beatle if you insist.
I know, and I thought about that. I said, yeah, fifth Kiss member, fifth Beatle, yeah. Uh-huh. Now, Bob, you have a tremendously long and successful career. So let's go right back to the beginning. So you grow?
Remember that far back?
You can, I swear. I know you can. Now, did you grow up in Brooklyn?
I did. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I went to PS 269 over there, right by Flatbush and Nostrand. And then I went to a junior high school called Andrews Huddy, which was named after a pirate that used to moor his ship in Sheepshead Bay, which was right near where the school was. And I also went to Midwood High School.
Wow.
So, yeah, I spent some time, my early years in Brooklyn there. That's how I turned into what I am, a Brooklyn guy.
So was there a lot of music in your house growing up?
There was a lot of music in my house growing up, and my cousin, may she rest in peace, Judy, taught me how to play acoustic guitar. I was blessed by being born in New York, where a gentleman named Murraythek, who was a disc jockey at the time in the early 60s, played music that inspired and had actual live performance shows at the Brooklyn Fox Theater, Christmas show, Labor Day show, whatever event they could squeeze a 3 or 4 or 5 day engagement out of, to be able to put 12 to 15 of the current top of the list artists, Marvin Gaye and the Temptations and the Shirelles and all those bands, Benny King and Otis Redding, all of them performed at these shows. So as a 13, 14, and 15-year-old kid, I would go to these shows, and the music was indelibly imprinted upon me to see those who are now worshipped as gods.
Right.
That's who I saw play. That's who I saw sing. No inner ears, records not fixed, lined, edited, tuned, nothing. You either had talent enough to do it organically, play it, and sing it, or you didn't. And I was able to see the top of the food chain, including the English acts when they showed up. I saw the Cream and Who at the Murray Show.
Oh, my gosh.
He presented these bands and these artists. And he was known as the Fifth Beatle because he actually was the one who broke them in New York. He played their records. He met them at the airport. They went to his, he went to their hotel, rather, the Warwick. When they came in, they did station IDs. It's available online. You can see Murray the K, who was known as the Fifth Beatle, playing that stuff. And that was my upbringing, is to have all that music in my life thanks to Murray the K, then the Beatles showing up. It was all the sign that I guess my brain needed to say, you're not going to be a lawyer, you're not going to be a doctor, and you're not going to be a school teacher. You're going to be a musician.
I love that. I love the fact that you knew that so early on, and those acts had so much impression upon you that this is what you're...
It's interesting. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because there was an earlier memory that I had discarded because I didn't read the sign. I think people look at things sometimes as coincidence. Oh, isn't that odd? Or what a coincidence, don't you think?
So
they're misreading.
What do you mean by that, though? What was your sign?
It's a sign from the universe. The universe is telling you something, and you're not listening. That's what I've learned, is that when something like that happens, it's not a coincidence, and it's not an accident. So I'll tell you the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
So as a 9-year-old child, I was taken on a school outing to see a symphony orchestra at, I believe, the Brooklyn Museum of Modern Art, or Brooklyn Museum, whatever it was. And the orchestra played Ravel's Bolero. Dum, da, 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 dum, da, 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 dum, dum, dum.
Yep.
Well, about halfway through that, I was in tears. And by the end of the piece, I was flat out crying. I couldn't understand why.
At 9 years old?
At 9 years old, couldn't understand why. Why? Didn't want to play piano? No, I don't want to play piano. Take that away from me. I had no interest. Yet I heard that. That was the signal. Hello? Hello?
So
that piece of music is like a rock piece of music. That piece of music was done by Jeff Beck as Beck's Bolero. Dun, digga, dun, digga, dun, dun, dun. You can hear it. Google it.
You're so passionate. Like, you're so passionate about this. It's wonderful, and it's...
Thanks.
So my other question to you is, did you ever do anything else besides music? Because, sometimes musicians have to take other jobs because their career isn't going the way they wanted to. Or has this been you your entire life?
Well, when I first started out, when I was 15 or 16 and I wanted to get some extra money, I worked in a bookstore and I worked in a record store for like a Christmas season or something like that, a few weeks. But I've been lucky in that, no, I never did anything else other than my music.
You are a fortunate man.
Yeah, blessed and lucky. And that's why I am saying to all of your listeners that there are things in your life that you look at as coincidences, which are not coincidences. It's the universe telling you something that you need to pay attention to. And the processing in the proper way of this information can only help your life. The belief in that there is good and that there are spirits. I believe in the music god spirits specifically, because I see the power of the music and what it does to people, and that can't be denied.
Oh, it's true. It's so true. So true. So you've been, again, radio has had an impact on your life, obviously, and you got to see some of the most wonderful acts when they were budding. Now, was your brother with you during all of this?
No, only a couple of portions of it. For instance, the Meatloaf portion, the original Meatloaf band. My friend Joe Stefko, drummer Joe Stefko, who played with Flo and Eddie and a whole bunch of other people, got this gig with his band, Meatloaf. and they were looking for 2 guitar players. He called me because we'd worked together with John Cale.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggested to them that my brother and I would be a good combo player because we were just at that point delving into the Thin Lizzy aspect of our playing harmony parts together and exchanging solos and stuff like that. We finally reached the point of where we were really good at it.
Yeah.
As a team, we were really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we went and auditioned, and they pulled me aside, and they were just like, you guys are great. We really want you, because at that point, I'd already played with Alice Cooper, and they realized that this is somebody with a lot of experience in this area who could really help. They were correct. But they wanted to use somebody else as the second guitar player. And I made it clear to them at the time that it was either my brother and I or not at all. And so that was the big instance of us working together. And then sort of after that, we kind of drifted apart into our own things. I introduced them to Paul and Gene, and, the rest is history when it comes to that. So, but I used my brother on a lot of the compilation recordings that I've done. So, we would continue to work together in that aspect. But as you noticed, I only really had a couple of attempts at having a band. And the rest of the stuff is me working with Wasp or Kiss or Lou Reed or, on the road with Meatloaf or Alice Cooper or stuff like that. I think of myself as known as a guitar player, but also as a producer. And because of like the SpongeBob song, a writer as well. So, arranger, writer, all of it. I think I have all the caps covered now. But to me, they're all equal. I don't view my writing chops as any less than my guitar playing chops. And I don't view my production chops as any more than my arranging chops. I'm saying? I kind of have moved to 4 different kind of specialty item fields, which fortunately I get to use. Right.
And I think it's pretty cool, too, that you're not genre specific. You're not just heavy metal. You're not just rock and roll. You have your hand in every single music pot, right?
Yeah. Even to the extent of, even though it was not a success because there's no demand for Dee Snider singing Broadway show tunes, if one listens to Dee Does Broadway, which I was the producer of, the arrangements of those songs framed as rock songs totally work. Mm-hmm. And my ability to be able to play a Frank Sinatra song as easily as I can play a Motorhead song says something about what it is to be a real musician.
Right.
That's why, people ask me for lessons. And I know, well, they want to learn the solos. I'm not interested in showing somebody that. You need to understand the instrument. You need to understand the chords. You need to understand where those notes come from and how they work. Everybody's so in a hurry now for instant gratification and get to the finish line that they forget about the joy of getting there.
So what would be the first thing you would help somebody do to get there?
Well, the first thing I would have somebody do is listen to what they want to do. Mm-hmm. What is it exactly that you want to be able to play? Yep. Let's hear that specifically. Let's see because there's, a friend of mine called me the other day. His daughter now, if she plays piano, she wants to branch out into guitar. What do I think? Well, what kind of guitar does she want to play? Electric guitar, acoustic guitar? What style does she want to play? Folk music, standards, rock music, pop music? There is a difference. There is a skill set difference in terms of what one would teach somebody specifically for those genres.
Right.
So I don't teach guitar because I don't have the patience. But in the studio, I'm the first one to give me the guitar here. Let me show you another voicing of that chord that I think will fit better with what you're playing.
Okay.
So I really utilize the teacher part of me when I produce. But to just show somebody other than a friend or two here and there, I really don't do it.
Makes total sense. Now, you had a brush with Jimi Hendrix back in the day as well. I mean, do you ever look back at that and go, did that really happen to me?
Well, what I look back at is the fact that back in those days, nobody walked around with a camera in their back pocket.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Sadly. So
yeah.
All of those opportunities, then nobody ever showed up. I mean, I have pictures of me on stage at the Cafe Watch, 15 years old. But God, do I wish I had a picture of me and Jimmy backstage or the time he'd jam with us. I mean, what that would be worth to me. Forget about what anybody else thought.
Right.
But just to have, to see. But you know what I do have? I have the memory of meeting somebody who was probably top 5 most special people I ever met in my whole life.
Wow. Somebody
who said things to me that meant something to my life. He sat down and watched my band play at the Cafe Wa once he had gotten the gig. Here's the story. My band played at the Cafe Wa, this club in Greenwich Village, 1967. We played Saturday and Sunday afternoons to the 15-year-olds that would go. Nighttime was Richard Pryor and Richie Havens and more sophisticated acts. The place did not serve alcohol. It was sandwiches and pop sodas and shakes and stuff like that.
Wow.
So Jimi Hendrix, a.k.a. Jimmy James at the time, came down one Sunday afternoon to audition and, stuck out like a sore thumb because, A, here's a black guy. There were very few black guys around that scene at the time. B, he looked like Little Richard. And then C, when he set up his gear, it was like, he's got 2 amplifiers. I don't understand. And what's he got on the floor? All these pedals. Proceeded to get up there and mop the floor with anything we'd ever seen before. It was just beyond belief. Somebody playing better with their teeth than we could with our hands.
My gosh.
4 nights later, he auditioned for Chas Chandler, who was at the time the bass player in the Animals, who was soon to be Jimmy's manager. 3 weeks later, Jimmy was on the plane going to England, and I would only then see him when he came back to New York, which I did on a bunch of occasions. So, but that was basically it, that he auditioned at the club, got the gig, and then hung out. So there were nights where he was the first act on in the evening. We were the last act on, say, Saturday afternoon, and our paths would cross. So one day he comes out and he sits down right in front of us. He's watching us play. So I leaned down and I said, Jimmy, this is totally intimidating. Please don't sit here. And he looked at me and he said, Bob, I learned something from every band I see, good or bad.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what?
Wow.
This guy is really smart. That is really smart.
But I totally...
taking him up on that.
Yeah, and I would, again, I never got to meet Jimi Hendrix, my gosh, but he seemed like a very smart man.
He was a
brilliant
woman magnet. He was a genius. His vibe, you could see it. You could feel it. He had an aura around him like somebody whose spaceship was parked outside. That's what it looked like. That's what it sounded like. That's what it acted like. We had seen nobody or anything like that ever. Everybody was stunned. It was like, just like when he went to England and the first time he played at the Speakeasy in front of Paul McCartney and John Lennon and Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton and Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey and all of the elite. They all left saying the same thing. We're done. That guy just mopped the floor with us. We're done. Seriously, look it up.
Wow.
When he showed up there, he laid them out. Laid them out. They never saw anything like that in their lives. Somebody that could play better with their teeth than they could with their hands. That's pretty intimidating.
Of course, but you have these memories with you. You have the ability to say, you know what, I talked to Jimi Hendrix. I performed in front of Jimi Hendrix. How amazing is that?
Everyone that I tell it to is pretty amazed, so I guess it must be pretty amazing.
I
For me,
love
it's
it.
just my life.
Yeah.
Lucky to be in the right place at the right time, which is part of what life is and part of what the signs and the signals of the fate and the synchronization of our lives. I really believe in all of that. And this is why, because the memory of these people like that can never be forgotten.
Right.
And I take it into the studio with me every day. The knowledge that these people imparted upon me, the integrity, the true blessing of being able to have music as what I do.
Nice.
Would I rather be a major league ball player? Sure. No, not really.
No, I don't. I'm like, you don't mean that at all.
As much as there are other things that I would love to do, I wouldn't trade this for anything ever. That I played with Lou Reed, that I played with Alice Cooper back in the day. All of the people that I played with, that I played on that Wasp record and did that song, The Crimson Idol. Everybody goes, that solo was just to die for. It's just like, yeah, it's a great solo. I have to pat myself on the back. I finally reached the point now where I do accept the fact that, you know what, you really are great. And I don't say that out of ego. I say that out of synchronicity, because it's time that I feel that I accomplished what everybody feels that I've accomplished myself. And that's very hard to do.
Right.
It's one of the malfunctions of having this kind of talent. I call it the Amy Winehouse syndrome, where somebody can't accept the fact that they're talent and does everything to try to short circuit it.
Well,
it's what I see in everybody.
You've been able to do this full time for your entire life, basically. So that, yep, it's there. The talent's there.
Yep, I think so. I think I passed the audition and I'm ready to move forward. Thank you.
So, Bob, now 1973 is here. You auditioned for Kiss. Everybody knows the story, but tell us about The Secret and how you...
the audition story, is that what you're asking?
Well, how about the story that you auditioned for Kiss, Ace ended up getting the job, but they loved you so much that you played on their records. So that was a secret. And then Gene eventually blew the lid off of that. How were you able to not say anything?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that. This has been a recent question. Nobody ever asked me this before, but now I've been asked this on several occasions. I'm sure there were non-disclosure agreements back in the day, but both Gene and Paul were my friends. We were friends with a capital F.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that I had honesty and integrity, and that if I gave them my word, which I did, that I wouldn't say anything, that I didn't. Now, I understand that most people would have, the first thing out of their mouths would have been, guess what I just did?
Right.
It's not me.
Right.
It's not me. And that's why I say that I am a person of integrity. I am a person of honesty. I do believe in the music gods. I do try to do the right thing always. And that was one of the things that, was it was a personal and business decision on my part to, plus I didn't even think about it. Wow, we could really make hay out of this.
Yeah.
I never thought that. I thought that the mission was accomplished for me in that, as I said earlier, now they know what they sound like with me. Yeah. That was, to me, everything. Yeah. Okay, so you didn't take me in the band, but now you know.
Right.
Now you know.
Right.
Okay, and that's it.
Yeah. But then, so you move on and you play lead guitar in Lou Reed's album, Coney Island Baby. That is looked at as one of Lou's best albums. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's kind of a lost nugget, I guess, that all of a sudden people have rediscovered, Rock and Roll Animal and all of that with my friends and idols, the guys that were, in a lot of ways, my teachers, especially Dick Wagner, who played guitar with both Alice Cooper and Lou Reed, somebody who I wouldn't be where I am without. He's no longer with us, and the world's a worse place without songwriter, guitarist Dick Wagner, who actually wrote the songs Only Women Bleed, I'll Never Cry, and You and Me, the three Alice Cooper hits. Mm-hmm. I would have rather have played with Lou during that period of time because the music was heavier. But when I ran into him and met him, this is where he was at. And being a versatile guitar player, he had seen me play live. This was the big deal about it. He saw me play live and knew what I was capable of. So those were all one-take Charlie songs. Literally one take. You get one take. I fixed mistakes, but he really only wanted my off-the-cuff impression of what to play rather than think about it. Oh, I have an idea of what to do here. He didn't want that. He wanted organic performance. He wanted my feelings, whatever feeling was elicited, guitar feeling that was elicited by the songs. The first song we did was Coney Island Baby. So I was off to an unbelievable start.
Right. And
you add to the fact that he handed me the guitar he wanted me to play, which he had just bought an old Strat. And he was like, what do you think of this guitar? And I'm like, it's a beautiful guitar. And I started playing, and he was just like, I have a song I want you to play on. I mean, it was just, I always looked at it like, wow, gee, what a coincidence. But like I'm saying to you, how could that be a coincidence? Even for him, I ran into him coming out of the bathroom. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, my friend's recording in B. He's like, come with me now.
Oh, come on.
Like, what's going on? He's like, I'm recording in A. Come with me now. Seriously.
That's how it happened.
Is that an accident? That's how it happened. Because I had met him previously. He was coming out of the bathroom. I was there seeing somebody else and ran into him.
That's nuts. I'm
saying to you, so if you look at that, you say, it's, oh, what a coincidence, or wow, timing was great. No. Fate. F-A-T-E.
Yeah, it had to be. It had to be.
That's what I'm saying to you. So I view all of it in this context now. It's made it a lot easier to process, to be honest.
Well, I like it because I'm going to carry what you're saying with me now. I love it. Now,
very nice. As you should. Try it. I think, if you see the signs now, you'll make the most of them.
I hope so. Mm-hmm. So, Bob, what happens after Lou Reed, after you leave him? What was next?
So Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare, with Dick Wagner filling in for Steve Hunter. That was an awesome gig, playing the Welcome to My Nightmare show with the top hat and the cape and all of that.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll never forget Alice turning around. We played the Sydney Soccer Grounds, 55,000 people. I think that was like the third or fourth gig we did in Australia.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'll never forget how big that gig was. It was like the biggest gig I'd ever done in my life. I was 26. I remember Alice Cooper turning around and doing that big Alice Cooper face at the end of $1 Billion Babies. And I remember saying to myself, don't ever, ever forget the feeling that you have now at this moment.
I was just going to say to you, what was that feeling? What was that?
A feeling of exhilaration and success, of chills, and just an all-around buzz, just like being high.
And at 26 years old,
high on that.
Yeah, 26 years old.
I made it. At that point, I was just like, you made it. This is what you wanted. You wanted to play in front of thousands of people with a rock star. I made it. I'd already made it. Then Meatloaf came, and that was a real make it. That was a real made it. First gig, booed off the stage.
Oh, come on.
Last gig, booed off the stage. We opened for Cheap Trick. We were booed off the stage. They had no idea what they were saying. They saw a 300-pound guy in a tuxedo with a band who they didn't know any of the songs. So we got booed off the stage.
So what venue was that at? Were you here in the U.S.?
It was a venue, and I think it was, I don't want to get in trouble. I think it was in Detroit.
Okay.
We were opening for Cheap Trick. I do recall that. Meatloaf's version was that they booed it first, and then it was excess afterwards. I just remember it as we were booed off the stage.
Oh, my gosh. So you go from 55,000 to boo.
But then, of course, so we fly to London months later, and the record's Bat Out of Hell's number one in England. And we're playing the biggest venue, and we're on TV, and then we go to Germany, and we're number one in Germany, and then we go to Australia, and we're number one in Australia, and then we come back to the U.S., and we're on Saturday Night Live, and 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad is a top 5 single, and we went from nothing, a fat guy and some hamburger helpers, to being the biggest band in the United States.
And you're saying basically that happened within a month's time?
No. I'm saying it took a month to get it to the point where it was ready to be disseminated as a band.
Oh, okay.
So in other words, we rehearsed for over a month to get it to be, and then it took 30 or 40 gigs for it to actually turn into that. But by the time the band was killing it, we'd gotten to the point where now people were taking it seriously. Now the radio stations were revisiting the record. Now the label was going, maybe we should write them a blank check and go for this, which they did. And, next thing you know, the record's gold. Now it's platinum. Now it's double platinum. Now it's triple platinum. I mean, it was just like, it didn't take long once the train started to roll. Why? Because the band killed it live. We were unbelievable. Go online and look at the live videos from the original band. I'll send you one that I have specifically.
Okay.
And a song of us not doing one of the actual Meatloaf songs. It was an encore song that I had suggested, the Phil Spector, Tina Turner, River Deep Mountain High song, which we did as an encore.
Oh, wow.
An amazing duet.
Oh, my
Meatloaf, and at the time, Carla DeVita. Yeah, with Bruce and I having a harmony solo in there, as we discussed.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So how long were you with Meatloaf about? Well, how long was that tenure for you?
The original band was in the original band, so that was 77, 78, whatever period of time that was. And then I joined up again to be a hamburger helper from 83 to 89.
And then what was after Meatloaf?
Well, I left Meatloaf in 89 to do the Paul Stanley tour.
And what was...
And then I went on to have that band Skull, who now those records... Well, we did one record, No Bones About It, which has now been re-released by a label out of England called Cherry Red. Mm-hmm. And they've also released Skull 2, now more than ever, which are the demos.
Wow.
So we never did a second record, but the demos are on here. And I'd like to give a shout out to all the guys on the record, Dennis St. James, whose vocals, again, show why he should have been a major star. Bassist Chel Benner, an incredible player and a really great guy. And drummers Bobby Rock and Chuck Berge, both of which are legendary drummers who both did an amazing job on this record.
Nice.
So there's 2 versions of Skull, No Bones About It, 2 different masterings, 2 different We used different songs because of the label at the time wanting to use all new recordings when the original recordings were actually better. So I made sure that the better version was released when we actually released it. But this other record existed, and Cherry Red was asking, can we include this? The fans would like to have it. And then I dug out the demos that we did for the second record, which include, as the first song, a song called Cave of the Heart, which was a song that I wrote with John Bon Jovi, Desmond Child, that didn't make it onto the Slippery When Wet record, but made it onto this record.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so actually the credits read John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, Desmond Child, Bob Kulick. That's the writing credits on the first song, Cave of the Heart.
Oh, wow.
So there's a bunch of really great demos on there that I think people will really get a kick out of hearing. So again, that's the Skull 2, which is, just go online. I'm sure there's a link to find it. As soon as I get it from the label, I'll put it on my social media now more than ever. And then the original, which is just a re-release of No Bones About It.
Awesome.
So that's the latest.
So everybody can look out for that from you. And then now let's jump over to your girlfriend, Julie, right? So she pushed you. She's the one that said, you know what, you have to do a solo album. But why wasn't it you that said, it's time for me to do a solo album? What did she say to push that button inside of you to say, okay, it's time. I got to do it now?
Well, she pointed out that, so look at the list of people that you show me you've worked with. Great. How about doing something for yourself? Kind of made sense to me, put in that frame, would somebody to be inspiring enough to, at that time in my life, I was kind of recovering from a few things, losing my studio and a few other things that had happened in my life that, I was very sick for a brief period of time. I almost died.
Oh my gosh.
2 surgeries. And I had a misdiagnosed ruptured diverticulum, which was fortunately fixed.
Oh my gosh, Bob.
So yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of, shall we say, issues.
Yeah.
Music then, because of the business and losing my studio, I kind of went into a pretty bad funk about it,
Mm-hmm.
We met, Julie and I met. Well, I was playing on stage with Dee Snider in Las Vegas in Fremont Street. She stood right in front of me and took photos of me, and we talked right then and there. So it was fate that we met.
Oh,
doing her job as a photographer.
She's an amazing photographer.
Guitar player.
Yeah, she is
unbelievable photographer. She's got the magic. She does.
Yeah, she really does. She takes beautiful, beautiful pictures. I looked at her Facebook and amazing, absolutely amazing.
You can check out her new website. She's done some drone shots now that are pretty amazing as well. So she's continually adding to her repertoire of, her amazing eye.
Nice.
She's got an amazing eye of when to shoot. And, her editing and all that stuff is just, she's so creative. I'm so proud of her. She's the photographer equivalent of me. She really has it going on.
Well, now, did she do the cover for Skeletons in the Closet, your album?
She did the back cover picture and all the pictures inside. The
Nice.
cover was a rendering that I had done from the idea. I should have gone with her photo on the cover, but one doesn't learn stuff like this until later. But I'm going to wind up reconfiguring, taking those songs and trying to put those with some of these other songs that I'm discovering that I have that have not been released. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So at some point I'll get another packaging together and include some of that as well. So
awesome.
Something else to look forward to down the road.
Of course. You always got to have a goal, right? And something else to...
Yeah. Well, I have a bunch of production stuff that I'm working on now that the announcement will be made of what this is when I can. But it's something really special and stuff that is, I think, will be near and dear to people's hearts.
Nice. Now, Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot and Dee Snider are both on your Skeletons in the Closet album. What was your favorite part of getting this whole project together?
Having everybody say that they like the songs.
Nice.
To go, so here you go, it's an original song. What do you think? Oh, I'll sing that. It's a great song. Oh, I'd love to play on that one. That's what I wanted to hear. So that was very gratifying. And that, these are the guys who I've worked with on other records, either produced their records or songs for them, or they sang on some of my records, be it the Christmas record or some of those compilations that I did. So it was sort of like a reunion. And because I had this great studio here in Las Vegas to record at with my co-producer, Bobby Ferrari, a really great guy, great friend, great producer and engineer, I was lucky enough to be able to have him work on my record, and his studio and his engineering skills, made the session even more special. That everybody showed up and was like, wow, this is a great studio, and wow, it really sounds great.
Nice.
Not somebody's living room, not recording in somebody's closet, with respect.
Right.
That's not the way to make a record. I'm sorry, whoever you are out there doing that, music gods, they don't like it.
Well, you got to start somewhere, though, right? You got to start somewhere.
Well, yeah, for your demos, but when you're going to do a real record, you make sure you go to a studio, and you tell me you don't have the money, you make a deal. That's right.
Yeah.
Because I did the same thing. You're talking to somebody who your excuse is lame, because you put your money where your mouth is, and you go for the best recording you can make with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right.
A producer. That's what I always suggest to people. But most people now, because of the dummying down of the business, and because of the I have a garage band on my iPad. I can make a record. Yeah, you can make a record that you can play on your iPad.
Right.
But other than that, that's about as far as it's going to get on your iPad.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bob, let's talk about the Kiss Cruise. You did it last year with your brother. You guys were amazing. I watched a bunch of clips of you guys playing. What about this year? Are you doing the cruise or are you not doing the cruise?
I'm not going to be on the cruise this year.
I think people are very sad about that. I'm seeing a lot of comments. Why isn't Bob going to be there? So what happened? I guess you were going to, right? You were supposed to?
Well, here's what I can say at this moment. Sorry, but I didn't want to have to say anything. But obviously, what you're saying to me is what I'm getting, which are people are asking what happened. So rather than do a Facebook post or say it now, please accord me the privilege of making a statement.
Of course, of course. Now, Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, though, you got that coming up with Paul Stanley. Have you done any of these camps before?
I'm actually not part of the camp part of the program. What my part of the program is I'm going to produce a song
for
the campers that are involved in a recording package. So
nice.
Video is Studio at the Palms. I just recorded Iron Maiden's there last week.
Oh, wow.
An amazing studio. I've been there a bunch of times, but hadn't really spent the time there, a bunch of days in a row to see what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to record organic performances in the studio. It's a really great studio. These campers are going to have the real studio experience with a real SSL, with the real deal equipment, like the old days. This is like the old days. So it's not
real to real.
Yes, there's Pro Tools, but there's actually a board and there's actually headphones.
Oh my God.
We'll actually get a drum sound. We're actually going to do it organically. You guys will play. So I'm really looking forward to that. Those kids are going to have those kids, whoever they are, they're going to have a great time, and I can't wait.
I mean, the camps have gotten rave reviews from people who have been to them. They just love it.
I've been to a whole bunch of them, obviously, but I haven't been a counselor. And a lot of it has to do with, the fact that, the guys that do these counselor jobs, they're usually somebody who's known for, like Rudy Sarzo.
Right.
Credit, Whitesnake. And so people know who it is. Oh, who's going to be your counselor? Oh, the guy from Whitesnake. Whereas what do you say? Well, Bob won a Grammy and he played with Lou Reed, but he also played with Meatloaf and he had his own record. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's sort of like I'm not a one-trick pony, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, Rudy Sarzo and all these other guys have played in 50 bands, especially Rudy. I mean, that guy's played with everybody, deservedly so. Not only does he look great, he's an amazing player.
I don't know, Bob. I think
amazing player.
I think you would be like the pushiest counselor ever in a good way. I think you would get somebody to where they wanted to be because you have that drive.
It's certainly something that I do on the studio side. So this is working up songs to play live, which is what they do at the camp, except for my part of it, which is the recording part. But, either would be fun. The recording part, however, is more my expertise in that to be able to arrange something to put on a record is way different than arranging something to play live.
Right.
There's the record tempo say, and then there's needs to be faster live because it's not exciting enough. Whereas on the record, it sits and has a groove. Live, it needs to be the tempo. Plus, we need an ending now. Plus, we need, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It takes on a little different aspect than a recording. But yeah, this should be a fun event. John Five and Tommy Thayer and Paul, and it should be a fun event.
So, Bob, what is the big bucket list item for you, music related or not? Something that you want to do.
I got to win some more Grammys. That's, I'm feeling like to win another Grammy.
All right. I love that. I love that answer.
Yeah. Yep. And I got something special in the works. Next time we talk, remember that I said this to you.
I won't forget it.
Okay.
I will not forget it.
You are something for this interview. I got to give you credit. This is like one of the most I feel like I've been backed into the wall here.
Really? I hope in a good way.
No, I mean that in a nice way.
Okay.
That you got all the info. I mean, I told you some great stories, but I'm very lucky to have some great stories to tell. So why not share them? Why not make somebody's day? If this makes somebody's day, it makes my day. You know what I'm saying?
You know what, Bob? You totally are going to make somebody's day. You made my day for sure. And honestly, thank you for sharing your stories with us. You have amazing stories. You have more to share. And really, really, thank you for taking the time, because you're such a busy guy. Thank you for taking the time, for sharing and telling us your piece of the music history today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that too. Thank you.